So when I was about 7 years old, my cousin bought a brand new 2007 Honda Accord EX. It was a four-cylinder model with the 5-speed automatic. And literally the first time I saw the car, I became infatuated. And I knew that at some point in the future, I wanted to own a 7th generation Accord myself. When it came time for me to buy my first car, 7th generation Accords in my area were going from anywhere between, I would say, 4 to 5,000, all the way up to 10,000 if you were going to buy one used from a local Honda dealer. And I honestly didn't have that type of money at that point, which led me to buy my 6th generation Accord, affectionately named Whitney. It's a 98 Accord EX V6 sedan. Still love that car. It does have its issues. You can see that it leaks a little bit of everything. So that's its dedicated spot in the driveway, but it's still an amazing car. Still starts up whenever I need it to. I trust to take it anywhere, if I'm being honest. But fast forward a few years later, I saved up some money and I knew I wanted a somewhat newer car. And I lucked out and ended up finding this '04 Honda Accord EXL sedan. It's the four-cylinder model. It has the K24A4, and this one is actually matched to a somewhat rare 5-speed manual. Something interesting is that this one actually has higher mileage than my 6th generation. The '04 has about 221,000 miles, and the 6th generation has about 198,000. So it's catching up slowly but surely. But anyways, I was happy I could find one not only in relatively good condition, but especially one with a manual transmission, because I knew that I wanted my next car to be a manual transmission. It's kind of a headache sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, because I live in a pretty busy area, but it's the experience of it that counts, I guess. But this one is featured in, I think it's Redondo Red Pearl. The paint code for it is R522P, I think. It was repainted by the previous owner, and the paint is definitely not a match to the factory paint, but it is what it is, honestly. A few things that I've added to it: I added the OEM rear wing spoiler that was a dealer installed option when the car was brand new. I added the i-VTEC dual overhead cam sticker. The car is powered by 2.4 liter dual overhead cam, 4-cylinder with i-VTEC. And then I added the sunroof riser, which again was a dealer installed option when the car was brand new. And this one was pretty much fully loaded, with the exception of obviously the dealer installed options, which I had to add myself. And then it does not have the navigation, which is not a big miss in my opinion. Has a little Save the Manual sticker right there. Now, if I'm being honest, I really did want to find an '06 to '07 Accord, preferably with the V6 and 6-speed, the 4-door variant. But those are pretty hard to come by, and even when you do come by them in my area, they're a little bit more expensive than I can afford. And I definitely prefer the back end of the '06 to '07 more than the '03 to '05, simply because it just looks a little bit awkward. It's growing on me still. I can't say I'm in love with it, but yeah, it'll grow on me. Moving to the interior, it has a pretty basic keyless entry system. It's 2004 after all, so realistic expectations. Lock up top, left is unlock, and right is press and hold for the trunk, and then obviously the panic button is the red button at the bottom. One click unlocks the driver's door, another click unlocks all 4 doors. The interior is in relatively good condition as well. Now, the one exception to that is the driver's seat. It's absolutely terrible underneath the seat cover, which is why I keep that on. The power adjustments and everything still work, and the heated seats still work. It's just a matter of aesthetically, it looks terrible, so we're just gonna skip that. In typical older Honda fashion, the sunroof control is off to the left of the steering wheel. A lot of people complain about that. I think it's genius, but you know, I'm biased, I guess. Down there, pull for the trunk, push for the fuel cap, then you can lock access to the trunk down there as well. No fancy sport pedals or anything. They're just covered in some rubber. You can see that has a hole down there, I guess, from just digging into it when you're accelerating and whatnot. Since this is the EXL model, it has a leather wrap steering wheel, audio controls off to the left, cruise control to the right, and then every 7th generation Honda Accord, regardless of trim level, got electroluminescent gauges, so even the DX and VP models You can also hear the familiar Honda chime in the background. The 8th generation Accord was actually the last one to use that. Moving to the center stack, you have your hazard controls, the passenger airbag warning, and 2 AC vents. AM/FM stereo, obviously, CD player. It does have satellite or XM radio. It has an auxiliary label, but you have to buy a kit in order to make the auxiliary actually work. It didn't come with the factory input. Moving down, you have dual zone automatic climate control. Some storage down there. This is actually supposed to close, but mine is broken, so it stays open. Heated seat controls down there for driver and passenger, and then the 5-speed manual. Sometimes I feel like it is longing for a 6th gear because on the highway going around, I would say 75, I'm revving all the way up to 3,000. But I think that's just the nature of the car. So of course the car has all power locks, mirrors, and windows. The driver's window only is automatic down and up. I'm not sure how well it's going to come up, but this one does have LED high beams and low beams. The turn signals are still incandescent. And I tried to find some LED tail lights like I have for my 6th generation Accord, but I couldn't find any, so for the time being, this looks good enough. The powerhouse for this car is a 2.4 liter dual overhead cam 4-cylinder with i-VTEC. It's known internally as the K24A4. It makes 160 horsepower and 161 foot-pounds of torque. This one is made into a 5-speed manual. However, a 5-speed automatic was optional, and that's probably the configuration you'll come across more. This engine, if I remember correctly, was also shared with the 2nd generation Honda CR-V. Now, when you compare it to something like the 10th generation Accord, for example, this car is pretty sparse in terms of features. Back in its day, for a 2004 model, this was top of the line. And it actually has some pretty neat features. And one of those is your ability to down the windows from the outside of the car. So you just press and hold the lock button, and once you hold it for the 2nd time, all 4 windows are down. And I think on the refresh or 06 to 07 model, the sunroof opens as well, but as you can see, mine doesn't do that.